Hello and welcome to another AARP Arizona Happy Hour virtual tour. I am Brenda with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to the more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, the AARP Magazine and the AARP Bulletin. During this month, AARP will offer events and enriching experiences close to home and from your home that help you make connections and serve others. While our situations are different, our need for connection is universal. Now more than ever, we know that connecting with family and friends is vital to aging well and living longer and having happier lives. Visit us at aarp.org/AZ for more information. Thank you again for attending, and with that, I will turn things over to Marshall.
Welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so glad that you have joined us. You know, I know there's a lot of people who are probably also watching the Diamondbacks and a playoff, so that's exciting. But thank you so much for joining us right here on Arizona History Happy Hour. We have a great show for you this evening. So my name is Marshall Shore, and I am the host of Arizona History Happy Hour. And so today is October 19th. And so this date back in 1939, Buckeye was getting ready for their 5th annual Hell's a Poppin' Festival, where everybody was getting dressed up in Spanish, Western, or just old-fashioned clothes. Now, that event still kind of resonates today. It is the name of their rodeo arena out in Buckeye. And so there have been something going on pretty much, I think, since that, like 1934. So all kinds of fun stuff. So it is also National New Friends Day. So, you know, it's all about making room in your life to meet and open yourself up to new people, new experiences. So great way to celebrate, just kind of going out and meeting some new folks as the world's opening up just a little bit more. Now, it is also National Bisque Day. So, you know, bisque is a really thick, creamy soup, usually with seafood. And, you know, because we can now fly seafood in to Arizona, even though we don't have a beach, well, I know we actually have some shrimp farms up north a little bit, but we can also get fresh seafood here as well. Now, it is also National Gin and Tonic Day, which is a day where enthusiasts get to celebrate the taste of gin. Now, you know, one of the things I love is the fact that it is also National Spirit Day. Now, National Spirit Day focuses on basically all over the world, focusing on LGBTQ youth and the harassment that is suffered because of who they are. And so we can all just kind of help stop that bullying and harassment. It is also Happy National Conflict Resolution Day. You know, it's better off to just resolve conflicts without violence. It can happen almost in any situation that you're in. It's an unavoidable process of life, but it's important that however you do it, that it is resolved. All right. So a lot going on today. So what can you expect from tonight? Well, you know, we've got a little bit of Arizona trivia coming up, as well as some music history. We have From the Vault, which is something you might drive by every day and not know anything is even there. as well as there is indeed a beverage. And of course, we have an amazing guest. So, all right. So, as I said, my name is Marshall Shore. I'm also known as the Hip Historian, and that means we get to play a lot with Arizona history. Why, coming up next year, we are doing the Orpheum's 95th anniversary. So I always talk about that. And so that is Arizona Unzipped, which is kind of an educational burlesque show, as well as museums to hit up right now. The Sunny Slope Museum, as well as the Tempe Museum, both have cool exhibits up on Legend City or Tempe signs. And then coming up early next month is Grand Avenue Festival and Art and the City, very close by, just a little south of that. And so actually a little north of that. So you can find out, there'll be an art show, and I'll be doing something talking about some of the art that's on display. As well as this weekend is Phoenix Pride. So be careful on Sunday, streets will be shut down for the parade. And, if you find yourself going down 19th Avenue and wondering why is it so hard to get through, it is because the State Fair is still going on. And so the State Fair is going on until the 29th of this month. And we also have a little bit we're kicking off our tour again, which we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes when we bring on Deb. But we've been doing it for over a decade now, which is kind of exciting. And then, of course, don't forget about Zarco and its Midzlicky event coming up Sunday, October 29th at Indian School Park. That's going to be free and fun. And I see several folks have already found the chat. Please feel free to chat away in there. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, email, or through my website as well, because I love to hear from you all. Now, PJ always keeps me lubricated. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what we're going to use today. So, and because it is National Gin and Tonic Day, so he made me a gin and tonic with Arizona Distilling Company, their Commerce Gin. Now, they're done right here in Arizona, and they have their own 5 C's. Now, let me get this right. So it's cardamom, coriander, cumin, and cinnamon, and citrus. So that way it's not just your standard old gin, but something a little more special. Yep, that is indeed just a very tasty gin and tonic. All right. So now we're going to talk about Little Arizona. And I thought it'd be kind of fun, since everybody probably goes through Buckeye and you know where that is, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about a little town nearby called Liberty, Arizona. That's very close by Buckeye, but it was established back in 1901, has a population of about 63. So not a big town at all, but I think it's really kind of cool because when it was originally settled in the 1880s, it was called Alamont, and then later became Toothhacker, because that was the name of the woman who ran the post office from her house. When they got an official post office back in 1901, it became Liberty. Now you can go visit the school, which was built in 1910. It is still in use and is the oldest operating school in Arizona. They also have this beautiful house, the Nardini Manor, which was originally a field house built in, again, like 1908, around in that area, for a cattle rancher. By 1970, it was kind of worn down, and then that is when the Nardini family took it over. In the 90s, it caught fire, and a couple took it over. And so they have brought it back to the glorious site we see now. So they do have lots of events there. So go check that house out. It looks pretty cool. As well as the Joshua L. Spain homestead. He was one of the pioneer founders of Buckeye. And, they also have a church from 1910. So you can find a lot of old buildings there. And, if you want to know where Joshua Spain is buried, he is buried in the cemetery there. which was established back in the 1880s and is the resting place of many Buckeye pioneers. All right. So now is a chance we actually get to hear from someone else other than just me. So let me bring on my friend Deb.
Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing really good. Hopefully, it's going to be cooling down any minute now outside. We just keep fingers crossed.
Indeed, because we have a tour coming up on Saturday.
I know, I can hardly wait. It seems like it's been forever, and I'm really looking forward to it, to get back out there again. I love that little walk. I mean, it's not a little walk, it's a long walk.
But we go nice and slow, so we're not running. It's not like we're running a gauntlet.
Yeah, we take it nice and easy, and it's always fun. It's always fun, meeting new people when we go out there. And like you said earlier, we've been doing it, gosh, about almost a decade now, I think. We started out on the bus, and now we started doing the walking tour, and that's been a lot of fun because we get to touch things up close and personal out there on all those wonderful buildings.
Indeed. So Deb, for folks who don't know much about you, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe some of the books you've written.
Well, I'm kind of one of these crazy people. I've been doing paranormal investigations all around Arizona for probably the last, 35 years. And then I became an author where I've took all these stories that we gathered while we were doing our investigations and turned them into books. I think I have about 10 books out now. There's a one in the cooker right now on haunted schools around Arizona, and I'm actually working on one on Tri-Cities, that'd be Tempe, Mesa, and Chandler. So I'm working on that, and I just keep on going around doing lectures and talking. I do dowsing, and I do background movies. I do all kinds of crazy things, just keeping busy in my old age.
So
retirement is a lot busier than non-retirement.
Well, I thought of you, and I was looking at Liberty and that old school. Yeah. I'm like, I bet there's something in there.
I bet you.
All right. So we do our trivia a little differently than if you do bar trivia, where it's more about, do you know the answer? Where here we really want to tell you the story of the answer. So what we're going to do is we'll go through the questions. We'll take a little bit of an Arizona music break and then come back and launch into some of those stories. Now, you can keep track of your answers. Some folks do it in the chat. Some folks do it on a special notebook. Wherever makes you happy, you go right ahead. All right. Who is the spirit that haunts the museum club in Flagstaff? Is it A, Fawn Summer, B, a deer named Molly, C, Thorna Scott, or D, Marlon Perkins? Wow. Could be a celebrity haunting. Let's just see if anyone else remembers who Marlon Perkins is. But all right. So question 2. The Birdcage Theater in Tombstone has a haunted item in the basement. Oh. And so is it A, a hearse named Maria or Mariah, B, a slanted pool table, C, Earp's toupee, oh my gosh, or D, Doc Holliday's boot? Oh, those are good ones to choose from. I don't know. So one of those is sitting in the basement of the Birdcage Theater in Tombstone. All right, question 3. The Phoenix Masonic Temple is downtown Phoenix and is haunted by A, Ben Jonson, B, A.C. Taylor, C, Commodore Perry Owens, or D, Sam Slagheap? So who do you think is still hanging out at Phoenix's downtown Masonic Lodge? All right, question 4. The Nile Theater in Mesa is haunted by A, a punk rock singer, B, a dressmaker, C, an early businessman, or D, all of the above? Oh, interesting. Hmm. All right, question 5. The Orpheum Theater in Phoenix is one of the most haunted places in town. Name 2 of its most popular spirits. A, Tom the Cat. B, Susie the Usherette. C, Mae West. Or D, Maddie, or sometimes called Maggie. So which of those 2 do you think are hanging out at the Orpheum? That's right. Pick 2. Only 2. All right. Question 6. The ghost of the Hassayampa Inn in Prescott is A, Philip, an ex-cop. B, Faith, a scorned bride. C, Patty, the elderly maid. D, George, the burned chef in the kitchen. Oh. So who do you think is still hanging out at the Hassayampa Inn in Prescott? Question 7. What floor of the San Carlos Hotel in Phoenix did Leona Jensen fall? Do you think it's A, the 3rd floor near the Marilyn Monroe suite? C, the rooftop near the penthouse area? C, the 7th floor corner window? Or D, she was pushed from a 5th floor suite and just missed the pool? All right, going on to question 8. The Drift Inn and Globe has a room upstairs where A, spirits are seen dancing. B, a man's heart was carved out. C, dynamite took out the stairs. Or D, ghosts are seen from the window. The Drift Inn Globe has some funky stuff upstairs. Question 9. What did the owner of the Brunswick Hotel in Kingman find in the hallways? Was it A, dirty dishes? B, hobos from the trains? C, pennies? Or D, flower petals? Oh. All right. And our last question. Oh, the newest haunted location to visit in Bisbee is A, a pontoon boating in the lake at the Pit Mine. B, Julia Lowell's cottage in Lowell. C, Greenway Manor in Warren. Or D, ghost lights in the Evergreen Cemetery. So what do you think is the newest location in Bisbee that you can visit? All right. While you are locking in your final answers, we are going to take a little bit of a music break. Now, you may have heard of Dyke and the Blazers. They wrote a song called Funky Broadway that was covered by Wilson Pickett, became a really huge hit, and they did all of that from right here. In fact, it said that Funky Broadway is South Phoenix's Broadway. But you know, as we get ready for all those Puppet Tune Christmas specials, there is one Rankin and Bass Mad Monster Party that was done in the late 60s and features puppets of Boris Karloff. I mean, you've got so many folks that are in there. Phyllis Diller, as well as a band that is said to be Dyke and the Blazers as Little Tibia and the Fibulas, as they do a dance called Do the Mummy. And you can see all those stars there dancing. All right. So now who is ready for some answers? All right. Question 1. Who was a spirit that haunts the museum club in Flagstaff?
Well, that would be Thorna Scott. She and her husband were the owners of the museum club for quite some time, and it said that she fell down the back stairs And today there's often a woman that sits in the back of the bar there, and when men approach her to buy a drink, she simply disappears, and they believe that that is Thorna, still coming around, enjoying her bar. Now, her husband also is one of the spirits in the saloon because he committed suicide near the fireplace. So that place is bopping with all kinds of spirits, and it's not just the animals, still hanging on the walls and on the floors there. So it's kind of a popular place for the college scene to go. At one time, it was a great place when, oh, country bands, was they were traveling from Chicago to LA on Route 66, would stop and play there. So it's a very, very a lot of strange energy going on in that place. So, but Thorna is the one of the
And
popular
Thorner
spirits.
and her husband still hang out.
Yes.
Wow. All right. The Birdcage Theater in Tombstone has a haunted item in the basement.
And that is the hearse called Mariah. And a lot of people, they go down to, in the basement of the birdcage. There's a poker room down there. Some of the bordello rooms are there. But, Mariah's there. And a lot of people take pictures of Mariah. And they claim they see faces in the windows. Now, that could just be reflection, a little bit of, seeing what you're not really seeing. But you always, hearses are always haunted. I used to own a hearse, and I remember the first time I used to drive it home, and I'd be driving down the street, and there was that little mirror reflection in that back window, and a few times I'd see my head, but I thought someone was looking over in the window at me. So yeah, it's the hearse. So you go down there and take a look at that, take some pictures, and see what you come up with.
Wow. All right. The Masonic Temple in downtown Phoenix is haunted by.
Well, that would be Mr. Taylor. Now, this is when we do our walking tour, we stop and we talk about him. And he's one of our favorite, conversations, isn't it, Marshall? And how he was working in he had a printing business, and he was, intent on, he had to do I think it was like an induction or some of one of the Masons, and so he was studying probably his speech, and he wasn't paying attention. And when the elevator opened at his business, he fell and it went to his death. So he comes to the lodge, I believe, as unfinished business. They still hear a man walking around. They had his wake here in the building. They had his funeral there in the building. So his spirit is one that they say they believe still haunts the lodge.
Indeed. And a lot of people don't even realize that there is a temple Masonic Lodge down there.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even realize that, and it's a very, very beautiful place inside. We've been inside. We've done tours. With they gave it us a tour, and it's beautiful in there. The rooms are spectacular. There's beautiful paintings everywhere, and it's just a lot of history. And I was wondering, did you get who number 4 was on my list there?
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, it was the fourth one, the fourth choice. Did you get the joke on who that was?
Oh, I didn't.
Do you remember on the Flintstones, and they belonged to their little lodge?
Oh,
That was
right.
that was their the head of their lodge. That was his name. So
Ah,
that was a little joke I threw in there.
but yeah, I mean, because they were the big,
Yeah, they with those moose things, Moose Lodge,
yeah.
wasn't it? Something like that. Yeah.
But I think it was like buffalo or dinosaur.
Buffalo, yeah, Buffalo Lodge. So that was the head of the Buffalo Lodge, and I looked that up, and I thought I would have put that as one of the choices. But yeah, Mr. Taylor still haunts.
Oh, and then this building. Oh my gosh. So the Nile Theater in Mesa is haunted by.
It is haunted by all of the above. And I recently was talking to the gals who give the Mesa ghost tour. Because they have these little carts they ride around on, and I went down and talked to them one day about the Nile because I was thinking I had been in the Nile and it felt kind of creepy in there and it had to be haunted. So I went to ask them, and they were told me like, yeah, because there was raves and things in there. So there's been people that have OD'd. At one time, the site was there was a dressmaking building there and a store there, so there were women because they heard women's voices in there, I guess, and also they hear men's talking, and so there was actually businesses there, so that's all the above. It place is crazy haunted, and they told me they went in there one night ghost hunting to check it out, and within I think 45 minutes, they got over 30 EVPs, and it was children, it was young people, it was women talking. And so the place is insanely haunted. So it's haunted by everything.
Wow. I mean, and it's like, and so I had a friend who said, hey, meet the Nile. And I didn't realize, I thought it was just the coffee shop in front. But if you go through the alley, that's where the club is.
That's where the club is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
So, yeah.
and I was talking to them and they were like, oh, there's also like tunnels underneath
Yes. Yes. There's
where they've done
supposedly.
some events before. And I'm like, oh, and they said it's really
Right.
creepy down there.
Because when it was the theater, they had, because we, of course, we know we didn't have air conditioning back in the 20s. They had to bring in ice to cool the patrons in the theater. So they
Uh,
would bring it through the tunnels, and then they would lift this big things of ice that was like, I don't know even how they did it. It was like they would put it along in the walls. It was connected somehow crazy. I've seen pictures of it. And so a lot of that was, just like, the Westward Ho, how they use the tunnels to have air coolant through there. So that was the same thing with the Nile as well. Those tunnels had a purpose, believe it or not. And it was to bring the ice in to cool the theater for the patrons watching the movies.
wow. All right, question 5. The Orpheum Theater in Phoenix is one of the most haunted spaces in town. Name 2 of the most popular spirits.
Well, of course, almost everyone knows about Maddie, or, AKA Maggie, whichever way you want to call her. And she is the ghost of the woman who sits in the rear of the theater. She usually has on a big hat. And as people approach her, she disappears. We don't know, exactly who she is. We think she might have been a relative, one of the nieces, because it would have been ideal if she could go there and see movies as often as she would like. But a lot of people have seen her. They've seen her up in the balcony, and she's usually there watching a film. And also, my favorite is Tom the cat. And while they were building the theater, the workmen adopted a little stray cat that was coming around. And of course, they did like, most workmen do. They would give pieces of their sandwiches to the cat. And pretty soon the cat was coming around every day to get another bite of sandwich. And so it just stuck around all these years. And they say that a lot of times when the school children come to do the tours of the theater, they'll be, walking around on the stage, and they'll look up, and in the rafters, they'll see a cat. And they're going, oh, look up there's a cat. And then, of course, the guides are going like, okay, it's Tom the cat. They even gave it a name back in the day, Tom. So that's my favorite of the spirits there. So it's very active. And aren't they doing tours there as well
They are. So
for the
they are doing
holiday?
actually 2 tours. So one is they're calling it a lights out tour, where I guess they're going to turn the lights out and
Yeah.
you see what you can find. So that should be quite interesting, as well as then a ghost tour that they've done for a
Right.
while. So, but I love the fact they're kind of introducing a whole new thing.
Yes, yes. I know that one's kind of a more history and one's more of like a little bit of a ghost hunt. So
Right.
those are always fun at this time of year to get in there and be able to do that as well. And we always walk by there on our tour. So we'll wave at them as we go by because we know.
Indeed. All right. So, question 6. The ghost of the Hasayampa Inn in Prescott is who?
It is Faith, the Scorned Bride. And I like to tell the story that I actually had an encounter with Faith. I was up there for a conference, And of course, the people at the front desk knew who I was, so they gave me face room. And so I was in there, and the story always goes where if you wake up in the middle of the night, your TV might be back on or the lights might be back on. So when I went to bed, what happened is Faith was there on her honeymoon. Her husband went out for a pack of cigarettes and never came back. And she was so, so sad that she committed suicide. They say she hung herself in the room. And so to this day, her spirit has appeared. So I had that room, shut the TV off, laid down, and I had this big, giant king size bed all to myself. And I'm laying there. I woke up, must have been about 1 o'clock in the morning. Sure enough, TV's back on, lights are back on. So I'm thinking, this is really a true story. I go, unless they have something rigged that the lights came on. So I shut everything back off, lay back down, and pretty soon I could feel someone sit down at the end of the bed. You know how what it feels like when a cat or a dog gets on your bed and just kind of makes that impression. So I kind of took my foot and scooted it off, and I laid there again, and I felt it like sit back down again, and I scooted it off, and I laid there and laid there, and pretty soon the bathroom was on the right of me, and I could hear someone in the bathroom running the water in the bathroom sink. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, pretty soon I look and I see this glass of water hovering over me in the room. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to throw water on me. I can't believe this. So I'm covering my eyes, but I'm still peeking because I want to see, but I don't want to get all wet. And I want to see, and I don't want to get wet. And I'm looking and looking, then it's like poof, it all disappears. And I thought that was like one of the weirdest encounters I've ever had, in a hotel. Of course, I was by myself, and I was like, no one to like confirm this on me. But like the next day, there was a whole different atmosphere. The weather had changed, the atmosphere in the room had changed. She didn't come back, but boy, that one night she was quite busy.
Wow. I've never stayed there.
Oh, you have to stay there, and you got to have Faith's room. That's the best room in the whole building. And it's beautiful. There's a little balcony. You can, sit up there and watch what's going on. Down Gurley Street is perfect place to have her room.
Wow. All right. Question 7. What floor of the San Carlos Hotel in Phoenix did Leona Jensen fall from?
Well, Leona, as ill as she was, she had tuberculosis, and she knew she was not a well woman, and she knew there was probably no cure. Her love life was just in shambles. Her acting career in Hollywood was going nowhere. So she put on her best dress, she did her hair, and she kind of like probably shuffled up those back stairs as step by step went up to the rooftop where the penthouse is, and just took one more look, and right there on the corner of Monroe, she just in Central, she just dived off the building, landed, still clutching her purse, still clutching her hat. So it was up on the rooftop where she made her dive. And her spirit still haunts the hotel to this day, up there between the third floor and the seventh floor, and that back stairs that goes up to the rooftop. They often smell her rose perfume.
Indeed. Oh my gosh. Now we're going to Globe. All right. The Drift.
Globe is such a fun town. We were just up there this past weekend, and we finished filming the dog bite murders, which, you're going to have to get these guys to come on your show sometime and tell some of their stories about the history of this movie, because they are filming a movie up there. We just finished the last scenes, the hangings, and it's based on a true story, and it's all historic, and they filmed at all locations around the Globe area. But so it was so much fun to do this movie just because it was true. And but the story about the Drift Inn, that used to be a big saloon. There was all the stairs were brothels. And what had happened, apparently, one of the cowboys angered one of the ladies. And while what they would do, the women down below would kind of put I don't know what they would call it, some kind of like drugs and things in their drinks, take them upstairs. They would normally like rob them of their in their pockets or their wallets and everything. But this one really angered the woman. And while he was passed out from his drugs, she stabbed him, carved his heart out, took his body, drug it somehow. I don't know how she got it up a hill where the mines are, and she actually had some dynamite and blew him up. I mean, he was a mess. But this room is room 18, and actually two men died in that room. And it is very, very, very haunted, very, very, oh, such a negative energy. Upstairs, also, they have seen, the image of a cowboy walking in the hallways. They see women walking in the back stairs. And so it's just one of the most haunted buildings in all of the globe. So yeah, that was a man whose heart was carved up there. But they do see ghosts in the window sometimes. In Halloween time, you look up there, and it's a cutout of a ghost they stick in the windows.
I was like, wait a minute. It's like you said, that's like, oh, near Halloween you see them. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They're there all the time.
You look up in those windows up there above the bar, and you'll see a cutout of a ghost. So that was the funniest thing when they filmed Ghost Adventures up there. And there was some man who came along, and he was saying that he had seen ghosts in the window, and he had, Zach convinced that that he had seen a real ghost in the window. And I went like, oh my God, it was the paper ones that this guy had seen. So yeah.
It's a bar,
that always cracks me up.
And it's a bar, so it's full of spirits.
Yeah, and the bar's full of spirits. That's true. Very true.
All right. So question 9, what did the owners of the Brunswick Hotel in Kingman find in the hallways?
Well, the answer is pennies. And when I was writing my very, very first book, and that would be Sleeping with Ghosts, and I always have to go around and interview all the people, when I'm writing a book, because I want their actual stories. And the gentleman who owned the Brunswick at the time had told us about how, when times were really tough getting the hotel started, because he had he refurbished the whole thing. And then he was finding out some of the plumbing was bad. So one night he says he got a warning from the ghost, because all of a sudden all the plumbing started making really loud noises. And he went up there, and he was able to turn everything off just in time before everything was going to blow up. Another thing he noticed, that when times were tough, he would really get depressed, thinking, should I not purchase this place? Was this really a bad idea? He would start finding pennies lined up along the floorboards, along the walls of the building. And so he always thought that was a sign that it was a good thing that he would keep the hotel after all. And he says that happened quite often when he would get really down and out, while he didn't think this was a good plan. He would start finding pennies like all along the walls or along the stairways. And he always thought that it was as a good sign from the spirits.
Wow. Again, another place I've never stayed there as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's back open again. It was open for a while. Another owner took it over, and then it didn't last for long. Then I think COVID came, and then there was another person that was going to take it over. So I'm not sure if it's back, running again or not. It keeps trying and trying, but you know how that goes sometimes. You got to get that right person in that right time, and then it becomes a success again. But it was a very cool place. It was very, very lovely when we visited there that time, when the gentleman owned it back. That was 20 years ago, though. Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. And then we have our last question, which is still kind of in that hotel realm. So the newest haunted location to visit in Bisbee is?
Well, this is a place that Marshall and I and our friend Fran have been we've been visiting there for the past year or so. Not all often, like every 4 or 5 months, we've been doing a séance here at the Greenway Manor in Warren. Now, this was a big mansion owned by Mr. Greenway and his family. When we've had experiences with his spirit watching us as we've done the seances. His wife has appeared while we've done the seances, and it's owned by Gretchen Bonaducci. If you remember, from a long time ago, way back in the day, and Daddy Bonaducci from Partridge Family. Well, this is his ex-wife. She has moved to Bisbee. She operates a restaurant, and she operates this wonderful, wonderful B&B that we have come to learn is quite haunted in its own ways. So it's a great place to stay that hopefully we'll go down there sometime in the future and do another seance because they were really popular when we do them.
One what I think is cool is you've got this great house that is so Art Nouveau, nothing has changed like 1906. But also the fact because of the mine, there was like a little hotel attached to it. So there's all these
Yeah.
rooms that are like suites. And so
Oh
you can,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, a lot of the miners and the mining executives stayed there at this place, and a lot of times they have seen, gentlemen standing in the hallways that were probably some of these executives that have, you know, did their work there at the mines, and it had a lot to do with the meeting with what was the big
oh, the deportation.
the deportation. They did some of the big meetings about the deportation in this building. So that was big, heavy duty energy that probably still circulating in this place. So yeah, a lot of history in this building.
Indeed. So, all right. So I always like to ask people how they did on the trivia because, we don't really worry about what your score is because you've got some great stories now to tell and probably some places to go visit. I know I've got a few places to add to my bucket list of places to go and stay and see if the hotels are still open.
It's always fun to do a little haunted history this time of year. So
Indeed. And so yeah, so I mean you've gotten some books, but I also so how did you get started in doing the movies?
the movies, Molly up in Globe, she's this is like her like joy now is doing these movies. So every once in a while, she knows that I love dressing up in these crazy old Western outfits or sometimes modern day. And so she always go, Deb, come on up. We're going to be doing another movie. This is right up your alley. So if it's a story that I really like, I'm all for it. And when they were doing the script for Dog Bite, the writers and the directors actually were looking for someone to kind of proofread the script, because they were, getting ready to get it out there. And so I said, I'll read it. So I read it and I thought, oh man. And I messaged back, I go, if you guys really do this, I really want to do background. And that's all I do. I do background acting. I mean, I don't ever have any lines. I don't ever do anything major. I'm basically, those crowd scenes that when you watch the movies and there's always got to be people walking down the sidewalk or standing in the crowd. So like this past weekend, I was standing in this big crowd watching a hanging, and so it was just, the script, the history of the script is so remarkable. And I think it's going to be out maybe sometime at the end of next summer, I would guess. Because
Ah,
now they're in, post production. So now they'll be going through editing and doing all the magic to it. So it's gonna be a great movie. I really see this one as being one of those great ones. And it's, Globe has got so much cool history and a lot of haunted history, a lot of great haunted tours up there you can do. It's a great place to go at Halloween too. So yeah, you just gotta, this is my favorite time of year because everywhere there's ghost tours, there's ghost history, all the shows on TV, feature it. It's just our favorite time of year. And our tour, I can't wait to this Saturday. It's been, gosh, since May was our last tour, so we
Yeah.
can't do them in the summertime here. So
No, so yeah, so it's going to be so much fun getting back out there on the street, and
yes.
there's been some new stuff happen in some of those buildings. So we
I
have
know
some new
that's
stories to tell as well.
excellent, excellent. Can't wait, can't wait.
And indeed. So Deb, thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Thanks for having me come back again. This is my favorite thing to do each year, to kind of do some haunted trivia with you.
Indeed, and just kind of let people know that there's all kinds of interesting things across the state.
Yes. And I'll
As
see you
well
this
as, I mean,
Saturday.
yeah, I mean, it's like, we've got the tour coming up, but I mean, also, I think also Mesa's tour is also on Saturday.
Mesa has a cemetery tour on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It's a self-guided walk through the cemetery. So that's always fun too. I thought about maybe doing that in the morning. So that's always kind of a cool thing. And then I think we got another tour next. If you're filled up this weekend, we got another one next weekend too as well.
Indeed,
So
on the 28th.
you still have time to get on these our October tours.
Yeah, and then we'll start doing them like once a month after that. So
yes.
You can also book us for private tours as well. So that's always a good thing. Use it for a bachelorette party.
That would be fun, huh?
So indeed. So yeah. So Deb, again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some cool history across Arizona.
All right.
All right. Have a great night.
All right. Night night.
Oh, thank you so much, Deb. That was great. And I first met Deb at the Pioneer Cemetery, which is okay. So now you'll see why I always say, if you're watching on Facebook, be sure and click on that share button, because there's so many cool stories and trying to share as much as we can. And so from the vault, I decided, since we kind of talked about Jacob Waltz and we mentioned some cemeteries, let's talk about the Pioneer and Military Memorial Park in downtown Phoenix near the Capitol. Now, what I think is funny is, so this cemetery is not the city's first cemetery. There was another cemetery near the train station. And so they decided to move it to the outskirts of town so that it wasn't so visible. And so this is here now. And I think there are 7 different cemeteries, 11 acres. And if you do get a chance to go, they do an open house every month. In many cases, there's also an activity going along with that. I know they did doll painting and pot painting. And probably one of the most famous folks that is buried there is Jacob Waltz. Now, Jacob Waltz is the Lost Dutchman, which is probably one of the most told stories throughout Arizona lore when you start talking about mining and everything else. And so we don't know where his gold is, but indeed we know where he is. And that's one of the things I love about the cemetery, is that there's so much history there. I mean, Daryl Dupa, the gentleman who was said to have named Phoenix and Tempe, is buried there. So they do an open house and you can get a chance to go through and take a look and see some of that history that's there. And so, I think they're the third Saturday when they do the open houses. So check out their website. That's why I put it there. So you can check out their website and see what activities they have going on, things like that. All right. So next week we have Brennan O'Connor, who has written a kind of an archaeology book connecting baseball, language, and all kinds of things. So it's going to be a really fun show. We're going to talk about all kinds of cool stuff. So you'll definitely want to check that out. That is next Thursday at 7:00, same bat time, same bat channel. And as we get ready to say goodnight, I want to tell you, please reach out to me. I love hearing from you all. Oh my gosh. I mean, Fran, who loves the show, just sent me some really cool stuff. And so I love to hear from you. People have been suggesting, hey, you should have so-and-so on. And so that's exactly what we're doing, is having some getting ready for future episodes as well. And so I always love to give a shout out to Chris and Cole, who did that great video, and PJ for keeping me lubricated and knowledgeable about what's going on in booze. And so I thought, last year Cronkite did a really cool story about cemetery preservation. I thought, what a great time to play that. So that's what we're going to see right now.
With the growth of genealogy companies, people are looking for more and more ways to research their family histories. Well, there's one place in Phoenix where you're able to go back 130 years to find ancestors. Samantha Chow introduces us to the people that are ensuring this place exists for future generations.
Sometimes I wonder, what is the point? If nobody's coming to visit, why are we maintaining cemeteries that no longer seem to have a function? Cemeteries aren't for the dead, they're for the living. And usually after a couple generations, the family stops visiting. So that's when deterioration and problems start to happen. But there's such an interest in genealogy today. You can't just go on Ancestry.com and find everything. There's a lot of things there, but you need to come to the cemetery to get the details. These may be the only record that they were ever on this planet.
The Pioneer Cemetery Association is a keeper of historic cemeteries. They do research. They also help out with this cemetery, which is the Pioneer and Military Memorial Park, and we just tried to watch over.
Today I'm cleaning a grave site. It's of a little 5-year-old girl. Her name was Amy, and the monument to her, it's not just a headstone, it looks like a little cradle around her grave.
We know how to look at it and know that it was never put together. It was just kind of sat there. This one we're taking all apart, cleaning, then we'll use a setting compound and set it together.
1 degree off, I can live with that.
So it'll stay in one piece.
They brought me in to work on some of the more complicated problems.
Yeah, we need to get some boards.
Sometimes it's like a jigsaw puzzle without the box.
I think I can deal with that.
You're working with pieces that sometimes are just small fragments. We're repairing them with an epoxy, and then whether it's a crack or just a huge chunk of the stone missing will all be replicated with a lime-based patching material. We'll do our best to make the patches not so obvious. We're not making them look new, we're just trying to preserve everything we have and make them stable.
So when you see something bagged, that means it's been worked on.
At some point, somebody's going to come in here looking for this information, and it'll be there for them if we preserve it.